it. I'm out of storage. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host here, Chantele and Francis, with my amazing co-host, Jonathan. This is our
Hi.
second to last episode. How are you feeling?
Wow, that's crazy. I'm feeling good. It was a good episode. I had fun.
I mean, it's a good episode. There wasn't really much content in there, especially since we didn't have the conclusion of the veto ceremony, which we know it's going to happen tomorrow night, where the person is going to be evicting live. So
I feel
yeah,
like
I mean,
Final Four is usually kind of, I mean, not if you're not watching the live feeds, Final Four is usually kind of like still pretty firm, like you know what's going to happen no matter what.
mhm.
And this seemed more up in the air and things potentially changing from previous, weeks as to kind of what was going to happen or how you thought it might go. So that was exciting, and I liked the game that the veto competition. So.
Absolutely. Me too. And if it's your first time here on Reality Realness, welcome. Please subscribe. Do us a favor, yourself a favor. Join our community of people that love talking about reality TV at midnight. Right? That's dedication.
Midnight Audition.
That is dedication.
Love
So
it.
before we talk about this episode, I just wanted to briefly touch on Friday's episode. I didn't have an opportunity to recap it, so I just wanted to kind of mention what happened in the episode. I don't even know if I remember what happened, but we'll see what notes I took. It does start off with Big D upset that everybody was supposed to be loyal to him. And he's been on the clock 5 times. Wait, sorry, that's Xavier, I think it was. Anyways, Big D has started his delusion. Have you been able to see his delusions in these last 2 episodes, or is it only really for us live feeders where we get to really see how he doesn't know what's going on in the game?
I mean, there's been a few comments, but it hasn't been in depth. Like, just yeah. If anything, there's redemption in this latest episode today because of his conversation with Aza and just saying like, I owe you. You know what I mean? I owe you, and all that kind of stuff that happened a little bit later. But no, that kind of delusion, the depth of it, from what I've heard, is not what you see on TV. So they edited it out.
So the block part was actually Xavier saying that he's only seen the vote once. He's been on the block 5 times. It's like, well, you also had an alliance that was never going to vote you out no matter what you did, Xavier. So like, and you put yourself on the block once when you didn't have to, and one time it was just by chance. So like, he hasn't really been on the block. But what do you think about Kyland using the veto on him last week?
I mean, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all, and that's why even my thoughts from like last week to what's happening this week, it seems like a shift. But I'm glad that it's shifting because I feel like people need to play the game for themselves, and I wouldn't be upset with when you come down to the end too. You need to win stuff. You need to like have that like flash in the pan for your resume, but also secure your safety. And I wouldn't be upset if people really, betray me right at the end, because if they're going to lose to me, then they should, because that's for their own game. If they're doing it just to be reckless, and then no. But
Well,
yeah,
Kylan wants to go up against the best. And so
don't even get me started on him, period. But I mean, like, he's just driving me crazy. And then again, today's episode, we'll talk about the sniffing afterwards. But it's just, I was like, I would not get along with Kylan. I didn't realize that at the
you would
beginning of
have
the
a final
season,
2 with him. I know it.
I would not get along with him. I'd be like, I can't stand you. I would play emotional with Kylan. I would be like, just leave, please. I can't. His conversations are so extended, and he brings them up again every time. You're like, you can see where it should stop, like a normal conversation would, and then he continues, and it's crazy.
Yes. So Big D is upset though because nobody told him what was going on with them using the veto on Oz's HOH. And it was still, the plan was still for Hannah to go home. So Ozza wanted this plan for Hannah to go home. She wanted to honor this deal that she made with Kylan, the
No.
person who she's been targeting for the last like month or so. And the reason why her and Tiffany weren't being able to get on the same page strategically is because Tiffany didn't want Kylan to go yet. Ozza did, and they couldn't see eye to eye there because Tiffany wanted Xavier out before Kylan, and she wanted Ozza in on that plan. But Ozza's like, nope, the only thing that I need to do next is get Kylan out. And then on his HOH, when she was never even like being a consideration, really, unless it was like in a renom situation where he didn't have to do that. And he makes her a deal, and she has to abide by it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like way to set yourself up for being in a bad spot, Ozza, to honor this deal with Kylan, who doesn't care about you at all.
But
So frustrating.
If Kylan was a better player, he'd really take advantage of, you know, the jokers that are left, because they are honoring their deals that were made, and yeah, and they're easy to beat and all this other stuff. But he's made so many mistakes. Um, a good player, not even like a great one, a good player could take those remaining and really run with it and win significant, like maybe even in a landslide at the end. So, like if Tiffany was in a different position or won a pivotal competition that she needed to win to stay in the game, she could have done that exact thing. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I think that she would have set herself up perfectly to be taken to the end by everybody and to most likely win against anybody. So we have B Bean joining us here. B Bean says, Jonathan, how could
no,
you not be in favor of Kyle's long soliloquies? What's wrong with you?
no.
It's the worst. Whenever I've done the live feed updates and like it's his head of household week, and I'm just like, oh my God, listening to him for 5 hours. And I would say that I'm a smart person and that I can, usually pick up what people are saying quite quickly. So I'm just like, I'm always like, okay, let's get to the point. Like, you know what I mean? I don't need this long drawn out thing. But he kind of doesn't ever tie it all back together. So he'll go like back up into this, like this tangent and then this tangent. And I'm always trying to make these tangents come together to make it make sense, like what he's talking about. But he literally just goes out in multiple tangents and doesn't make them link
Right.
together.
See, I'm a talker and I go off on crazy tangents. But what I have seen from Kylan is not even the tangents. I'm a TikTok watcher. And so I see the Big Brother 3-minute TikToks, and he just is an extender, like a conversation extender, and reiterates. And I'm just like, shut up. Like like no one wants to hear you go on and on and on and on and on about the same thing, or perhaps even a tangent of something else. But it's too much, and it's not just, it's like you can feel it in the room, you know what I mean?
Yes, Bibine. Kai reminds me also of those adults speaking on those Charlie Brown cartoon special. Yeah, like I can't even pay attention because I'll tune in and out, tune in and tune out because like I just actually just can't focus for that long. It takes so much concentration to pay attention to what he's saying. I would probably just be like not listening, and then I'll pick up one word and then I'll say something back, and then I'll just like not listen. I wouldn't be able to get along with him. I don't think I wouldn't be able to strategize with him.
I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't be able to
either.
have an
For a
alliance with
social,
him.
and I don't want to bash him even though I am, but for a social game you need to be more self-aware, is what I'm saying, you know? You're putting yourself out
Yeah.
there in a game, everyone's watching you. You need to be a little bit more self-aware of how you come across, and these extended conversations with people is just out of control.
Out of control. So, what do you think about Big D saying that he deserves a seat in the final two? He deserves it. All that he's done.
I I would love to hear Big D's speech as to why, and give it like flat out, just give me the whole run through. You know what, a final two speech. I'm not saying I want him necessarily in the final two, but I
He's
kind of do.
there.
But I want, it's, but I want to hear that speech. It's something that I am really interested in hearing his perspective of it. So I
Well,
just don't know if it's like a, I don't want to call it a delusion, but I just mean like it's it's just he's super unaware of everything that's taken. He's just very centered within himself. And that's great for a lot of people to be successful in life. In a game like this, you need to have that, but also have an awareness of the
what's going on in the
situations
game?
around you, and how everyone else's perspective. And I haven't heard him talk of other people's perspectives. So
Well, this is how he ranks the players. He thinks that Kylan and Xavier have done the most in this game, then him, then he's like maybe Tiffany, I guess, Hannah, and then Ozza has done the least in this game. And this is what he's telling to Ozza because they get into a big fight I don't know if they'll show it unless they show it tomorrow or Friday. I guess they could show it on Friday, but probably not. But big fight about the fact that he says that Ozza has done absolutely nothing in this game, and he has carried her on his back through this entire game, and
I
that he
mean,
has been dodging bullets for her like this entire game.
maybe I don't know that she's done much either, but maybe comparatively, it's like he's done slightly more. I don't know. Maybe he
I
has.
think that Ozza's done more than him
I
for
mean,
the
to
fact that
me, he's at least aligned himself with two strong people. I haven't really seen her do that, or she kind of aligned herself with the girls, and then that fell through. But it's yeah, I don't know.
well, the line with those guys at the end has nothing, and they're the guys in the cookout. So it's like inadvertently they're going to be, they're already been in your alliance, and you've had to communicate with him. So I don't think it was his like amazing social
No, and
skills.
I don't see anything that he's carried her, for.
Well, he's like, so he says that she would have been on the block if it wasn't for him on, I think, Sarah Beth's head of household. And whenever he went up to stand in front of for her, which is not, this is all not true. Because he's like, well, you wouldn't have been able to go on the block next to Brittany. I've been emotionally supporting you this entire game. And like,
What?
I just
what-
like, where's this guy? Like,
what-
I have been saying that he's a bit delusional because he really has not a clear perspective
I mean, the
as what's
thing
going on in
is,
the game.
and this is a trait in people that I don't like, is when you're not like, you don't know what you don't know, and you have to be open to that. You can't say definitively that there is this and this in the world when if you don't know it for yourself. So I'm very open to many things, and when you are like that, it's just it's the opposite, and you're just like, nope, this is how it's happened, this is what's been going on, I know because I've been in this house, been playing this game. And I'm like, but you don't know, because there's all these other people having different conversations, and you don't know what's gone on, you don't know the moves everyone's made, and you just have to accept that you don't know what you don't know, and allow for other people to have successes at the same time. What you should be doing is building your narrative that you want to paint for other people to see. That perspective that he has of himself, it's his job to make everyone else think that, not just like stay with it yourself and then go with it. You need to have done stuff in the game to make other people feel that way about you. That's the whole game.
And there's no evidence of with the narrative that he is painting for himself. Like literally, he's saying to Ozzy, he's like, "Well, we'll have you can make me dinner after the show, and we can watch it together, and you can see all the things that I've done for you." And like they got into a big fight. She's like, "Well, thank you, but like I've done things for myself here too, and like it wasn't by accident that I got here in the end as well. Like I have done some things." Like, no, you have, like, he just completely shutting her down the whole time and like making her feel really bad, so bad to the point that if she wins the final three, she's thinking about taking Xavier because they've gotten in so many like little tiffs and arguments. So that's also really bad, Big D, that your number one like person that's been with you in the Joker since day one is considering taking you out of this game, even though she would 100% beat you
Yeah.
because you are pissing her off so
He
badly.
was he also told her that he was very much considering not taking her. So it's the final 3-2. So I mean, that's just bad gameplay. Like all around, that's just bad gameplay. It's like you need to convince people that they're, you got them, and even when you don't, and be honest with them kind of as things are happening, but or afterwards. But it's just, I just think it's I have so much bad gameplay right now.
It's the whole season. It's been bad gameplay. So what I've been like kind of saying about this end game is that these four people, they haven't really done that much in this game. They were safe, because they were in the cookout. And Tiffany and Hannah were both doing a lot of work, mostly Tiffany, with even just creating the plan.
I
Big D
think
is taking credit for the plan, but it was all Tiffany's plan.
I
Sorry.
think the social, I think they handled the social. But I do think the guys did a lot as far as the guys being Kyland and Xavier, as far as winning when they needed to win and securing an early on a path so that they were, even when other people won HOH, which was rare, usually it was one of them. But when they did, it was still within like, you know,
You didn't really see it on the show, but Tiffany did deflect any time because most people were coming for Xavier,
but
and
that's what
she sorry?
but that's what I'm saying. The women did the social. So even when it was like
Mm,
Christian won HOH or whatever,
right,
the women handled, making sure that the guys who were winning the competitions weren't being targeted. So I do think
absolutely.
they both like the guys won a lot of stuff. Kylan's won what, 3 HOHs or something?
3, but
Yeah.
the last one doesn't really count as getting them to the
And
to the
Xavier's,
6. 1-1, and he got out Brent.
right. And so it's like, and that's sometimes key is winning those things initially, and securing very pivotal weeks early on, I believe. So they did that, but there was so much social that specifically Tiffany, that was very evident. You could see, and both should be acknowledged, I think. Yeah, I mean, I
Well,
think it took both.
yes, it took both, but I think that Tiffany still would have been okay even if Kyland and Xavier didn't win those 3 competitions early on. You know what I
Tiffany
mean?
as a person. I don't know
Pardon?
about I said Tiffany as a person. I don't know
Oh,
about
well, Tiffany would have won this game if she didn't have to deal with the 6.
yeah.
Because she wouldn't have been having to work with people that she didn't get along with and that aren't strategic like she is. And so, anyways, what I was saying though is about this final four right now is that they don't really see that the work that Tiffany did to get there. They just all of them really think, for the most part, that they are just these amazing game players that did everything to get themselves there and are completely not acknowledging what it actually took to get them into these positions. And so they're making all these game errors is because like they don't have the Tiffany being like, maybe don't do that, or don't do that, or having the group mission be what they were moving towards instead of like fighting for themselves individually. So I'm just seeing like how terrible all of them have been at their game. And if they didn't have the cookout to support them, they would have fumbled the bag way earlier. You know, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would have made it to the 6. Any of them, like if they didn't have the cookout supporting. So yeah, Big D, I was really surprised though. Like, him and Ozza are really good friends and like they've been together since day one. And the fact that he wants to take her out and go to the end with the boys, like what? He thinks that he can beat them both. I'm just like, in what universe? In,
I understood not that, but I understood when he was explaining it to her in today's episode when he was saying, "Look, separately, I made this deal this week with this one. I made this deal this week with that one." And I understood that. Looking at it from that perspective and you wanting to like stay true to that because admittedly she even said that don't have a final two. They've just been looking after each other. They were in the Jokers, they've been friends, they were in the cookout. So I got that and I understood that.
but
But
from a
it's
game perspective, you should be taking Ozza, and Ozza should be taking
of
Big
course
D, no matter what.
of of course, absolutely. Like I understood what he was saying, but I mean it's not like we've said, good gameplay. It's not even if that's what he's gonna do, I wouldn't like be telling her that just like willy-nilly kind of days before you even have to and you don't know the outcome of like vetoes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's I mean we've talked about it a lot that they're just not
So
good.
bad. So bad. So they do introduce CSI Vegas, and BB Crime Lab is, I guess that was the competition. It was the head of household competition, right? Yes. And
Yeah.
so, what do you think about that competition? So basically, they had to go with kind of like a black light, and they had to go and find different pieces of evidence that were tricky to be able to determine which one was the correct one
Yeah.
in their lab. What do you think of the competition?
And first of all, love CSI. I watch CSI in Miami,
I'm
CSI.
gonna watch this new
I'm like watch
CSI.
CSI New York, and they're bringing like my two favorite characters back.
Who are your two favorites?
Um, Grissom.
Yeah,
I mean OG,
obviously.
and then what's her face? Sarah Seidel. Um, so
Oh,
and then
George. What's her name in the show?
and
George.
then- and they're a
Gor-
couple,
I can't remember right now.
and so and they're I mean they were a couple, yeah, because I think they went off. He went off first, and then she went to visit him or whatever. But they were a couple. So I've watched all the CSIs from start to even CSI Cyber, and I love Patricia Arquette, but not good. But
I watched a few seasons of those for sure. I used to watch CSI, the regular one. It was still Vegas, but it wasn't called Vegas. But regular CSI, I used to watch
we
that
just do it by, yeah.
religiously. I love Marge Helgenberg, I think her last
Burger,
name.
yeah, of course, love.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of that show. So
Yeah,
I am considering reinvesting in it.
George Eads or whatever. I mean, I hope he comes back. But yeah, I absolutely love the franchise. I've watched it for 15 years that it was on, literally, and this game was like an escape room almost.
That's
Loved
exactly
it.
what we've all been saying
Can we
about
have
it.
this every year? Like, I love this. This is so up my alley. Yeah.
So fun. So it's just like it's winnable. It's fun. It's not. They could have made it a little bit more realistic and like have like the footprint on like the ground as opposed to like on the side of a pillar. And they could have maybe made it more themed to Big Brother. Like they're just in a museum. Or could they have done it in the High Rollers room or like
Sure.
like BB Beach
Yeah.
Club or something that was a
They
little
can do
more
that
on
next
theme?
year.
You think you're going to do it next year?
I said they can do that next year. They can theme it to whatever the theme is. But also, I just found that it's a game where it's a little bit of endurance in addition to not like book smarts. It's just being observant and, and having some logic and some sense to you and being able to organize your thoughts well. I thought that was really good. I thought it was a really good balance of like you said, winnable by anyone really. And so loved it. I
Me
thought,
too. So by the end of it, though, we have our winner, and it's Xavier. So he is one head of household, and he ends up nominating Azza and Kyland, leaving Big D off the block. So moving on to tonight's episode, which you also enjoyed. Um, so Big D is talking about how he wants to do what's best for his game, and it might be to take out Azza. How is that the best for his game? Because Kylan's not taking Big D to the end.
yeah, I don't there's so much wrong with that. Kellen should be taking Big D to the end, but also I that's where I wanted to hear a speech because I don't understand why. I understand him honoring certain deals, but the fact that he's certain that he can beat, I don't know. I don't know why.
Me neither. So Natalie says, "Hi Natalie. I can't wait to see Sarah Beth, Tiffany, and Hannah's reactions to seeing Kyland in the jury house. Oh, it's actually gonna be sweet. I could see some drama with him in the jury house. Well, I could see a lot of I told you so's because Tiffany's like, hey man, like you had a final three with myself, Hannah, and you, and that we could have made that happen, and you
Yeah,
got
they
out
they
after
they
us.
literally sat in the bed with him and saying, "The only people that are protecting you are me," like Tiffany and Hannah, right? Like they were saying, sat in the bed with him. That was aired on TV,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Well, screw you. I'm going with Xavier instead."
Going with the guys. I'm just happy that he gets some just desserts. To be fair, but I still don't know who I want to win right now. I kind of want it to be Azza to win the final three head of household and her take Big D and just like the end of the season, just be like, what? Azza won this game?
Yeah, it's kind of like a flop final two. It's like final two, like kind of floaters. It would be great.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I think it would be great. So Sarah Siddle is a fictitious. Okay, yes, okay, I remember Sarah played by Georgia. That's what I was like. Georgia. I was like, good Georgia.
Oh yeah, I was saying the character's name.
Right, and so I was thinking of. I couldn't remember which was which, but that's why I was trying to be like Georgia. Okay, on the CBS Crimes drama CSI Crime Scene Investigation and its sequel CSI Vegas. Yes, no, I love Sarah Seidel or Seidel. I don't know if I've watched the last few episodes of seasons though. How many seasons? It really did 15. Like when did it stop?
The original did 15. Ended in 2015. It was the last one on the air. The
I feel like I've seen
CSI
it all though, to be honest.
CSI Miami went out. Like I think it was 2012, 2014, 2015 is when they all ended. Clearly, I'm crazy about CSI. This is why But yeah, it was 15 years. 2015 was the CSI crime scene investigation. I have the board game. It's in my room.
Is it good?
No, but we'll pretend it's not good
I want
though.
to play. It's fun.
Yeah, I
You're
mean
like,
it's
no.
okay, but it's not the
Is
best.
it for
But
like 8-year-olds or is it for adults?
no, it's sure, like 12 plus, I guess. It's not,
Okay.
you don't have to be an adult or anything like that. I mean, it's
Fair enough.
also it was, from 2001 or something. So
B Bean wants to know, will Tiff and Kylan hook up in the jury house? I don't think so with Sarah Beth being there. And I don't know. I would be very turned off by Kylan for being so bad at the game. I find people that are smart, that are great at Big Brother, that are good at the game, I find that attractive. And so the fact that he made such a terrible move for himself and he literally did it to himself where he saved Xavier with the veto, and then Xavier is head of household. He ends up going home. Like it's too unattractive. It's too I don't know. It's just bad moves,
Chantel's game sexual.
right?
She only finds if you're good in games, reality games, then she'll find you attractive.
Well, there's something about being good and smart and like
Yeah, it's
charismatic,
like the whole package. If you have that ability to be, you know, conniving, but like in a good way still, and like doing what you need to do and kind of get that win, or even if you're cheated and you don't win, but just having that ability within you to be that good at stuff. I mean, it's very
mhm,
attractive. It's an attractive quality in
right?
any.
That's how I fell in love with Dr. Will. I was just like, yes, Dr. Will, yes, Doctor.
You're like
So
playing like a fiddle.
yes. No, he wouldn't. We would be teamed up together. We would be in cahoots and in a showman's. I would be Shannon. I want Ozzy to win, says Anna. It's what this season needs. Topsy turvy. Yes, I think it is what this season needs. Um, I think I could be satisfied with Ozzy winning. I wouldn't be too like. I know that Xavier's done more than her in the game, but it just would be a bigger fu to those guys. Like I want them to get a little
Mhm.
fu.
It's my hope.
Tylen and Tiff and Kai have hooked up already, haven't they? Yes, they have. And then he nominated her and sent her home. Yikes. So I don't know. I would also be a little bit salty about
Well,
that. And she
like,
doesn't have to be nice to him anymore.
define hookup. Like, you know what I mean? Did they? Didn't they? I don't know.
We heard a little finger bang might have been the the occasion. That's what we hear. Okay.
Supposedly, allegedly.
Allegedly. So Azza asked Big D if he has committed to a final three. And he doesn't really give her a straight answer, but pretty much alludes to the fact that like he's working with the guys, and so she feels now that she's in the hot seat. If she doesn't win veto, she is going to be going home. We see Big D talking to Kyland, and he's worried about sending Azza home, and like he's kind of like going back and forth with. Like, I'm like, you're talking to Kyland, the other person that's on the block, about the fact that you're having doubts about making your decision to keep him. Like, choose the people you're talking to better, Big D. Right?
Yeah, it was all weird.
It's
The
before
the
the veto.
the overlap of people having conversations with each other before the veto was just crazy. I was like, I don't know what's happening here. It's
Like,
just like just saying stuff.
so if Kylan won the veto and now he's pissed at you, like, and then he sends you home, like, it's just so it's just beyond. I don't understand logic. So Kylan is telling Big D, and he's not really great at helping Big D make this decision. Like, just say to him, like, I'm taking you to the final three. Like, this is what we promised. This is what we planned. And Big D wants him to say, I'm taking you to the final two, but just say that. I'm taking you to the final two, but let's just get to the three first. Like, let's just do it. Like, this is what we set everything up for. This is why I use the veto, just to make sure that like we had me, you, and Xavier just like go on and on about the boys club, and instead of trying to make him feel guilty or something about it. But Big D wasn't really having it. And Kylan is saying, like, I just want to get to the three. And Big D, you're worried about getting to the two.
Yeah, Kylan's really good. There's a couple. I can't cite the scientific journals, but there's a couple studies about it in psychology I learned about a long time ago. and where guys are really good at poisoning the atmosphere if they choose to, and it's usually when they're having a little ego sulk fest or something. So, and I felt like he was really doing that in the room. Kyland, I was like, what are you doing right now? You're speaking to him this in this way, and then he's like, I think it's just best if I leave this conversation. I'm like, you are on the block, sir. The veto hasn't been played yet. I'm like, you need to win people over and use this opportunity, this conversation, to make him want to keep you at all costs and say what you need to
Absolutely.
say. Like, I just don't get these people. I'm like, what are you doing? Like pissing him off when your life in this game might be in his hands, and you clearly care about it because you're crying about it, you know, later on in the episode.
Mhm.
So
Um, the next part kind of annoys me. I don't think they show it that much on the show, but on the feeds, Ozza's always asking Xavier to cuddle.
I mean,
And
we're cuddling
I
on
know this is the cuddling scene, but like she's always like, "Can we cuddle?" And he's like, "Yeah, not right now." Or like, I don't know. Have you ever asked to cuddle? I feel like that's something that's just like natural when you're hanging out with somebody. You just like you're sitting on the couch together, and then you end up cuddling. Like I didn't know that you
like
need to.
date two when you don't know the person that well. You're like, do you want to cuddle? But
You wouldn't even do that because there's
no,
like natural
no,
body rhythm and like
no. I mean,
chemistry.
you have to ask everything nowadays. But I mean, you Um, naturally being first of all, they've been living together for a long time. I mean, and
Hmm.
it's when you're in, I just for me it was like when I was in university or college, depending on where you're from. But and you're living on campus, just even a few weeks seems like a lifetime. And these people you've known, they're like your new best friends, and it's crazy. I never thought that that would happen. I went to university a couple of years after Big Brother and Survivor aired. So initially, I was able to see it, not understand it, and then understand it. And so you're really close to these people, like really close at this point. So it would be weird to ask. You just kind of fall into it normally, and you
That's what
can
I'm
kind of
saying. Like, it's not like I've never asked to cuddle and like I cuddle a lot. You know what I mean? Like it's just not something that I'm like, hey, do you want to like make an appointment to cuddle? But they do have these people that you can hire to cuddle. So I guess maybe it's just something that I don't need in my life. But
no, that's gross too. That's almost as gross as Kylan sniffing everything.
We're getting to that. We're getting to that. So they do talk about Xavier does say that he wants the best African American person to win this game, and he feels that everybody that's left in the game would really represent that very well. Talking about how Kylan wants it to be Batman versus Superman for the final two, and Ozza's really asking like, "Is that what you want?" And like, she's doing actually a decent job with like kind of
Mhm.
planting that maybe it's not a good idea to go to the end with Kylan. Maybe it would be better to, have Wonder Woman in the final two or to be
Yeah.
going head to head. I thought it was cute.
He wasn't giving her good responses. I would have been
No.
really worried if I was her in that conversation because I was like, "Ooh, kind of what he's saying is giving you the runaround a little bit." So,
That's what he's been doing with her this whole season, though. So he just gives her like a little bit of like loving, and she's just all this like anything you say,
but he
Xavier.
kind of did it to Kylan later on in the episode too, and I'm like, "Oh, is that how you talk to people?" I'm like, "That would really put me off you. That would have all my flags and sirens going, and I'd
I
voted.
can't stand Xavier, really.
I would have voted you out a long time ago if you talked to me like that."
Well, he's still, I think, bottom of who I want to win. Like him and Kylan, both of them. And Big D, I can't listen to any of them anymore.
I would
So
feel with that conversation, I'd feel like you're managing me, and that we're not on the same level. That you're playing me, and that you
right,
have a plan beyond me and not with me.
right. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like he's not including her in what his decisions are at all. His ex using Azaz's crush as a game tactic right now. I'm not keeping up with the feeds. I mean, I don't.
It does seem like it from watching it. It seemed like we've known she's into him, and he just doesn't seem like he's into her.
He's
But
not into her. He's said that he's not into her. He doesn't want to have a showmance. He's here to win the money. I do think that he is allowing himself to have more cuddle sessions than he may want to because of the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's really like being like, oh, strategically, I'm going to make sure that happens. But I think he knows better than to say no every single time
Yeah,
she
yeah.
asks him to
Yeah,
cuddle.
it's not like he's going out and seeking these moments and making them happen. He's just
Yeah,
expecting more than he probably would if they weren't playing a game for $1,000,000.
exactly. Exactly. I saw the pictures of Xavier's family on Twitter. I've not seen them. I'm sure he has a wait, is his family? Oh yeah, but from his head of household package. Am I mistaken? His whole family is white for the most part. Is he adopted? I know he has a lot of siblings, and I'm wondering. I don't know how it all went down, but I feel like his whole family might be white if the pictures are making sense in my head. Aza's bar is on the floor because they have all treated her like garbage all season. Look at the way D talks to her. Absolutely, her sensor is off for bad game talk. Absolutely, he like if you see some of the conversation that she has with Big D, it's like she just allows them just to like treat her like garbage, and it's not great. Even there was another time last week, I think it was, or the week before, where Xavier also told her how terrible she's been at this game and that she
Yeah.
hasn't done anything. And it's just kind of like,
I mean, to this
shut up.
yeah, to this comment, I would argue that she was in a position where she could have changed that, more easily than it would be now, obviously, but, earlier on, but it was, something that, um, she kind of fell into seemingly. I don't know, and I don't know. I mean, the edit that you see on TV is like she hasn't really done anything either, so.
No, I mean she's done. No, the only thing she's really done is made some bad decisions. Really. Okay, so Big D doesn't know why Kylan hasn't promised him a final two. And I don't understand why either, Big D. Like, Kylan, promise the guy final two. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, well, like, I've done so much for you in this game up until now. You owe it to me. Like, I shouldn't even need to ask you. Like, why are you, because he's saying, like, why are you asking me for something when it should be Kylan asking him for, reassurance here. So I'm with Big D. I think that Kylan should be groveling a little bit, right?
Of of
Promise
course.
everything.
Yeah, no, like, of course. And that's what I'm saying when I was saying even earlier that it just blows my mind how Kylan was handling all his conversation. I mean, most of them are handling their conversations, but especially Kylan, especially talking to Big D. It was just absurd. I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like I said weeks before, I said you need to go into every conversation with what am I trying to accomplish here? And it's just all ego from Kyland. I feel like all ego, just letting it kind of run. And you can't expect. No one owes you anything in
Well, he
life.
thinks
In the
Big
game
D is
outside of it.
ungrateful. He's ungrateful. He's
Yeah,
ungrateful for all that he's done for him this game.
nobody owes you anything in life.
Not in this game. It's like, hey man, thanks, bud. Sorry. I think Xavier has never dated a woman of color, and I don't think a woman of color is his type. I have heard that his most recent girlfriend is, if I'm not mistaken, white. I'm not sure if that's like a never thing, but that's what I've heard about his most recent relationship.
Mm.
So that's interesting as well. Very, very, very. So I put this in quotes. I don't remember who said it though. Our final two deal is dead. Is
Derek.
that? Oh, that was Derek saying that to Kylan.
Yes, he's like, so I'm taking that as our final two deal is dead. And I'm like, yep, like we're like, great job, Kyland. Like,
What a bad move. Okay, so you wanted to talk about the sniffing tortillas. I found out the real reason, so I want to.
okay, no, it wasn't just tortillas. It
Well, but
was
for the most part, though,
it was
I'll
everything.
explain
Yeah.
it after. But go
Um,
on.
I mean, maybe don't set me up. Like, fill me in first, so I don't
No,
talk all this crap. And then you're like, well, he has this deficiency.
no, no, no. It's not. It's not. It's not something like that.
Um, I just think it's absolutely disgusting. I don't care if you're just eating it. I don't care if it's your shoe. I don't care if that's what you do at home. There's people who pee in the bathtub in the shower, and I think that's absolutely disgusting as well. But they do it and they don't air it. You know what I mean? You need to be aware that you are on television, sir, and you going like this to everything, like really getting in there too, right? But with everything is like cuckoo. Like I don't. What is going on? I just don't get it. I'm like, why are you smelling? And it's literally like Xavier said, like he has it on his face, like he's like right in it. The tortilla.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the how that he sniffs is a little bit extreme, but the reason why he sniffs is apparently Big Brother, they've been washing everything before they bring it into the house due to COVID. So any of those bags of tortillas and stuff like that, they wash it. And so he's actually smelling these things to see if there's like remnants of soap. And so if he's smelling soapiness to it. And so I think he probably has a sensitivity to like the smell of like soap stuff.
In his shoe, he was smelling for
But I
soap.
think that he's just like
Right
a
in right in there.
the tortilla is the only thing I got an answer
They're in
for.
a bag, and you're like you don't have to rub it against your fit. That's so
I mean, I
weird.
thought the gross
It's
one was
so weird.
the for me was the floss.
I
That
think
was
I blacked out for those. I didn't even see that. But I, I went into like protection mode. But it was I just like if you told me that Kylan was like the new version of like they hired him for like Hannibal Lecter for a new TV series, I'd been like I'd cast him because he's like has this like something like slightly, you know what I mean, like
yeah.
off, but like and that is one of those examples of like smelling that.
I'm gonna write that in. So B Bean does says to you, does this mean that Jonathan won't invite Kylan over for Thanksgiving dinner?
Jonathan's still on lockdown from COVID, okay? No one's coming over. Especially not I mean, if you told me that he might be like maybe just as like a case study, you know what I mean? He can come over and you could just be like, "Wow." But, not my type of person.
Would you date Kylan?
He ain't talking to me because absolutely like, I don't even wanna, like, know.
Anna says, see, that's actually a good explanation. They were probably doing the COVID grocery alcohol wipes. Wait, floss? Yeah, he did it. So he was flossing and then he smelled the floss. And that one, I was like, okay, you lost me there, Kylan. That's pretty gross. But maybe he's trying to see if his breath smells. Like, I don't know. But that's what I heard about with the food, with the tortillas specifically, is that some of them smell soapy, and because like of whatever disinfectants they've been using to clean everything before they bring it in the house due to COVID. So that just takes care of the tortillas,
I
really.
think it's weird. You know,
It's weird.
let your freak flag fly high, but you're on camera, so just, like, rein it in. Rein it in.
Yes, Kai is off, says Anna. Yeah, he's special. He's definitely special. All right, so we see Big D talking to Xavier, calling out Azza for laying in the bed all season. I'm like, what? Like, does he not remember that he like probably has bed sores for the fact that he did not leave that daybed? Like, he
I mean,
literally
most of their shots are both of them laying down, to be honest. I mean, him more for sure.
he had
For
a
sure.
segment
Yeah.
that he was sleeping everywhere like he was a cat.
Yeah.
Like while game was going on. Like, the beginning of the season, gameplay was happening 24/7 and Big D was laying in a bed.
Taking some naps. Listen,
Anyways, it just was like so annoying that Big D is just like calling out Ozza for sleeping the whole game when he literally did the exact same thing. Like literally. But he wouldn't want to sit beside her in the finale because she's gonna have good relationship with everybody because she didn't have to lie and she never had to manipulate everything and everyone. And I'm like, Big D, you haven't really done that. You haven't really. You haven't, because like you're not even lying and taking out Kylan like when you should. Like, Big D.
no.
Derek F will blame the edit for his lack of gameplay. LOL. Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to Taryn, and I was like, "So, what are you going to say when you have your interview with like Big D?" And he tries to say that like he ran the season, And he's like, well, I'd politely re-educate him on his contribution. I'm actually very excited because Taryn at the end, like next week, he'll probably do the final three and do like their full, like their whole game progression. And I'm intrigued to see what he has to say about Big D, to see like what he's actually done to get there. So we will have that next week, I'm sure, from Taryn. So Xavier's talking to Ozza, taking Ozza to watch CSI Las Vegas. So I guess was it for a reason that he got that, or is it just because he's head of household? He got to watch an episode.
Why did he get that?
I think it's because he's head of household.
I forget. I just remember the reason he took her was because he said that she had head of household, but didn't reap any
No
of the rewards
perks.
for it. But yeah, that's all I remember.
100%. So, and like, I think he's also kind of like, oh, and I can pretend like having a date with her. And so, like, maybe it'll help me out in the end. Even though she's very clearly telling him that she's taking Big D to the end. And I'm like, even if it's true, why are you telling Xavier that? Like, he knows that Kylan is going to take him to the end because Kylan is silly, but it would be a harder win for Xavier. So, wouldn't you just want to make it so that it's enticing for him to maybe use a veto if he wins it on you, Ozza? Like, wow, these people, ridiculous. And then what's her name? Ozza says to Big D when he calls her over to kind of apologize, even though he has a lot more that he should be apologizing for, but they didn't show that on the show. Like they're really trying to redeem him when like he was quite nasty to her a couple days ago. And she's like, well, I don't want you to go back on any deals that you made. It's like, what? Ozza? That's a $750,000 like comment that you're making here. Take that back. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of money. I don't think that they realize that they're playing for a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to look at it like they spend so much time to each other. The lines are just blurred and they don't know, they like can't stop themselves, especially at this point. And like just I'm sure they're like tired and exhausted, but this is when you really need to focus and get it into gear. Yeah.
So Natalie says she will not be listening to the Big D's interview with Tara. I mean, but you should listen. We'll listen to his like game progression. That will be interesting just to see what Taryn can pull out of the air to make him have some sort of story arc. Chantele, Ozza does not like money. Do you know what? Apparently, she does not like money. She would like, it's just insane to me. You'd rather keep your word to somebody that won't keep their word to you and give them $750,000. It's just like, it's wild. It's wild.
We come from different planets, if that's the case. Because
planets.
It's like I'm understanding not valuing like money, but I mean to that extent. But at
you're
the
on
same,
the show.
But I'm like, you're on exactly. Like you went on the show. This is what you went on the show for. And just even if you care about people around you, like just it's a lot of money, but it's also not a lot. Like you can spend it like that. So that's not going to buy you a house in Toronto. So I mean, like a nice one by any means. So it's like they're all over $1 million. So it's just it's even just having some money to secure that people aren't starving in your family. You know what I mean? Or like worried or stressed out for a few years. Like it's even if you don't like it, just take care of people around you, a little bit. So I just don't understand that level.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like she values everybody else's family and what they need the money for more than herself and her family.
Yeah.
So
if I was your sister, brother, cousin, I'd be real upset at this.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm not getting you anything ever for Christmas ever again. Ever.
I'll put in your card that you owe me for. I mean, maybe she'll win, but
like she has a path to the end though. Still, she wins that final 3 and takes Big D. So I mean, it's possible still, but she's like, none of them are taking the easy path to the end. Like, so bizarre. Really, 750,000 USD could not buy a house in Toronto. Not in my neighborhood. Like I'm renting, so it's not like I can afford one of these houses. But like the houses around here are all like $5 million.
Yeah, semi-detached are over $1 million easy. So
very easily, like Even like really like a dump would probably still be a million.
Hmm.
Like a dump downtown, yeah, $1,000,000.
You buy a condo,
Yeah,
like a one bedroom.
it'd still probably be $700,000, but
Yeah, like that's your money. Like it would be like, the condo.
if you paid for the fully in cash, maybe
That's
they'd
it.
finance or they'd get a lease or
Yeah.
a mortgage. Okay, so we have the competition is BB winning days. We've seen some variations of this competition before. One with the seesaw and balancing the balls. I think was it Christmas that was playing it that season 19. I feel like I remember seeing basketballs
Maybe.
on the end. I don't know which
Um,
season it was.
what I liked about this though was,
There's a few elements.
yeah, I mean, I like the whole competition, but I liked how they used like the fire. You know what I mean? And the kid, like not like something that you would actually study. And they kind of threw him a curveball with that. I like that. I wish there was maybe a little bit more of that stuff that you can't necessarily study for you unless you like went day by day by day in your head over and over and over again. Like what happened? What were the important things that happened this day? So I really liked that particular round.
And I was impressed that even Big D and Ozza, who I feel like hasn't been studying or like, well, Ozza does have her guide. She uses Fruit Loops to study. But I'm just impressed that they both did so well. Because realistically, Kyland, he was just running through it and not being like careful,
Brute
and
force. Yeah.
he completely blew it. And one of the reasons why he wanted to go to the end with Xavier was because he thought that he was going to be winning all these competitions at the end and was going to choose to take him, and they would just have to still give him the win because he beat him this whole way down. And it's like, oh wait, I didn't win this. Now I'm at their mercy. Oh well, I didn't really count on this equation happening. It's like, why wouldn't you think of this being a possibility? Like it's very likely. Ding dong. So
Yeah.
next out is Ozza, and then Big D actually was second here, so he was out third, and we see Xavier wins the veto, so he is locking in his spot. Well, we knew his spot in the final three, and he now gets to choose who he's going to have make the decision on who will round out the final three. So we know that Xavier has changed his mind. He doesn't want Kylan anymore to be part of that equation of the final three. And now it's all to Big D on whether or not Big D is going to value what Xavier says, and or if he's going to stick with his whatever he has with Kyland.
I thought it was interesting Big D came in second again because I'm like, they've been talking about him coming in second a few times and him really beating himself up over it. They didn't really show kind of conversation that he had with himself or anything like that afterwards, beating himself up over it. But I was like, oh, yep, coming in second again. But
Well, I mean, hopefully you can come in second when there's four people playing. But yeah, no, I was impressed though that he knew his days for the most part, even though they all got that third one wrong. They couldn't get it. Kylan definitely is beating himself up. He kept X safe, and so he's expecting the favor to be returned for him now that he's won the veto. It's like, no, babe, not everybody wants to see if they're gonna win against the best. We're not playing a video game here. Like, and you want to go up against the biggest enemy boss in the end. Like, no, like I want to take the path of least resistance to the end to win $750,000. Sorry,
I
Kylan.
I love with Big Brother the moment that you see people realize that they've messed up. That they like if they could go back in time, they would change certain things. And like I feel like you saw it a few times in today's episode, specifically once obviously nearing the end with Kyland when he was having that conversation with Xavier. But yeah, it's that moment that where you like because it's an emotional moment, like it's that heartbreak, and you're like, oh, if they just like if they go back in time. Anyway, I saw it at the end there, and I didn't love how Xavier was talking to him. I didn't think it was
Right?
good, jury management, and just like, either just say it right out or say like, look, I can't. I know what we've said, and I just really have to make sure that I'm making the right move for myself right now, and I know that's not a good spot to put you in, and I wish I could tell you definitively that this is what I'm going to do and honor what I've said or whatever the case may be. But I'm letting you know that I have to think about this for my game. And it was just like, no, I'm just gonna be vague. And I'm like, ugh, ugh. It
Well,
was just
it's
like a weird
it
power
goes.
move, and ugh,
I don't know
hate
if
it.
that was the same conversation that I'm about to mention, but right after the veto, he kind of goes around and just says to everybody, like, okay, like, I'm not going to talk to anybody tonight.
Yeah,
Like, I'll talk to everybody about the veto tomorrow. And so he did go around and he tried to leave a few times. And like, Kylan's like, yeah. And then so, and like, he'd go into like some long monologue and like draw Xavier back. And he's like, oh, well, like, I'm just going to, we'll talk about it tomorrow. And it's like, well, what are there to talk about? Like, are
like,
you
well, that
honoring?
doesn't make me feel good. The fact that we need to have a conversation. Yeah, I mean, but I don't disagree. I think if I was Kylan, I would do the same thing. But I just think Xavier handled that really poorly.
They both handled it poorly. Both of them handled it poorly. So did Xavier win veto because Ozza could not? Well, Ozza could win it though, because like if he wants Ozza to win or to stay potentially, like her winning, she's not going to take out Big D. She's going to take out Kylan for sure. So I think that he just wanted to pamper his resume.
Yeah, your final four, like, build it up. Absolutely.
And so like he has all the power, make that decision, get Kylan out. It'll look like a big move on
That,
his
that,
part.
that's what I thought he wanted it for. Was he was like, I'm making this move. I'm gonna be the one. Yeah.
And so that is it. So that is the episode. Tomorrow will be the eviction. So we'll see if Big D can evict, whatever. What do you think he's going to say? Let's take bets.
Um,
Because he's going to have to stand up and do this live.
I think he's not gonna say the word. I think he's like, I'm sorry, Kyland.
I have to send you home.
Um, I I'm sorry, Kyland. I have to keep Ozza.
Okay. Sorry, Kylan. I have to keep Ozza. And I think is I'm sorry, Kylan, but I sadly to vote you.
I don't think he's gonna do it. They'll all be like, "What the hell?" Kyland's gonna be like, "That doesn't count. I'm staying."
Or I sadly to evict you.
No, I feel like he's either gonna blow us all away and say it right, or it's just gonna be not that at all.
Well, okay. Well, take bets in the chat, please, or in the comments below. So, who do you think is going to be closer to what Big D actually says tomorrow night when he evicts live? So, what was yours again, Jonathan?
I'm sorry, Kylan, but I have to keep Ozza. So it's he's not gonna say vote or evict at all.
And I think he's going to say, I'm sorry, Kylan. This is a really hard decision for me. Ozza's been my girl since day one. Therefore, I sadly to vote you. Sorry, Kylan. All right. So just tell us who you think is going to be closer to what Big D actually says. Yes. You vote for,
Mhm.
okay. You vote for Jonathan's choice. Okay. Come on, guys. Come on. Mine is good. Yes, he'll avoid saying the words no closure at all. Well, thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out with us. I know there's been a lot of television going on tonight, so we definitely appreciate you hanging out with Jonathan and I this early Thursday
Yeah, you're all
morning.
night owls.
Oh my god, I have to go and finish watching Survivor and go to sleep. I'm tired today. Do you have any final thoughts about this episode? This will be our last episode before we all come together for the finale.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad that it shifted a little bit to what I was expecting to happen from last week. So, yeah, and I do hope that Ozza and Big T are final two because of what we discussed and it being like a kind of a flop final two, I think. So,
Yeah, it would be great to have a nice big flop. I pray to God, but I have to evict you. Do you think that's what he's going to say?
that's too
Mhm.
coherent.
That's quite good, Natalie. Waiting for your thoughts. Yes, that's what it's going to be. That's all we have to say for you guys tonight. Obviously, thank you so much for being here. We will be going live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk about the first episode of Survivor. I'm hoping an hour will be enough, but so we might have to speed through this first episode just so we can be ready to talk about or to watch Big Brother. We could probably squeeze into Big Brother a little bit because then we can watch it on fast forward.
Good
But
episode.
we will be back tomorrow.
It's a good episode. Survivor.
So far the first half is good. That's all I've seen so far.
I've watched it.
Super excited to finish that right now. I watched the challenge though. Did you watch the challenge yet?
I have watched the challenge as well, and I've worked out, and I'm gonna go watch The Masked Singer right now.
Well, I did a recap, and I taped Masked Singer, so I'm gonna watch that probably tonight.
I have not eaten, and I'm gonna pass out. But some sacrifices need to be made on this Wednesday of all these shows.
Gosh, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for making sacrifice for art. Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody, again here in the chat. We love hanging out with you. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And please vote between myself and Jonathan's predictions on how Derek F. is going to evoke Kyland. Let's see. Bye, guys.